Good afternoon, I'm Malcolm Jordan and this is your Midday News Fix for Wednesday, the 11th of September. Decisive actions being urged to avoid another event like June's flooding in Wairoa. An independent rapid review of the devastation in northern Hawke's Bay has identified several shortcomings. Senior political reporter Sophie Trigger has more.
It found several factors caused the Wairoa River to back up and overflow, highlighting weaknesses around planning and management of the river mouth and bar. Recommendations include central government taking steps to clarify the legislative framework around flood management, and Hawke's Bay Regional Council coming up with an operational management plan for the river.
Newly released government documents reveal the Ministry of Justice advised ministers against ACT's Treaty Principles Bill. Cabinet discussed the contentious proposed legislation on Monday, and David Seymour yesterday clarified it'll have its first reading before year's end. Political editor Jason Walls has more.
In a just-released regulatory impact statement, officials at the Justice Ministry advised that the bill should not become law. They said although the proposed introduction of the bill could have some value, the law change could damage Māori-Crown relations. Despite this recommendation, the bill will pass its first reading in the House later this year, but will then be voted down in the second reading.
Shane Jones says closing 2 North Island mills is the ghastly outcome of an energy sector that needs to change. The closure of the Winstones mills near Ohakune will result in the loss of 230 jobs. The Regional Development and Associate Energy Minister says Jen Taylors hold too much power. He says the criteria for a review of the sector will involve structural separation. He says they need to make change carefully, but previous governments have been too nervous to fix things.
We trusted the power system to deliver outcomes that boost international competitiveness and national security. They haven't, so we have to change it. Simple.
Meanwhile, one company, Octopus Energy, says the government's decision to scrap the Central Otago Lake Onslow Reservoir project has discouraged electricity investment. Chief Executive Margaret Cooney says it could have helped tackle competition in New Zealand's electricity market.
If competition was working well, we would have had new generation coming into market. Things like Onslow are a bit of a distraction.
A West Coast regional councillor has been booted from council committees. Local Democracy reporting says Alan Birchfield was ousted as council chair last year, then formally censured. He had allegedly leaked employment information to media after a standoff with the former chief executive. Emily Ansell reports.
Under this week's revamp of committees, the Greymouth gold miner was left out of most. Birchfield strongly objected, saying he was an elected member with 3,000 votes. He says he isn't worried about most committees, but is determined to challenge his banishment from the operations group.
To sport. Aston Martin have hired car design guru Adrian Newey on a 5-year, $64 million per annum contract to resurrect the team's Formula One hopes. Former Silver Ferns netball coach Yvonne Willering believes the change to the ANZ Premiership, with teams playing twice rather than 3 times a season, is the right move. And Australia's government has ordered sporting organisations to meet a new gender equity policy by employing a 50-50 gender split on boards by July 1, 2027, or see funding withheld. I'm Malcolm Jordan. That's your latest news fix. We'll be back with the next update at 5 p.m. from the Newstalk ZB newsroom.